Sony G Master 28-70 f2. I finally splurged and got it. This is going to be an unboxing video and a quick comparison just by the physical aspects of the lens. So you get this nice case here that's very similar to the case that you get for the 24-70 f2.8. Very similar lens hood to the 24-70 strap for this case here. Here's the 24-70. I'm going to get the lens hood. So the diameter of the lens rings are different. So the 24-70, this is a 82. Then the 28-70 is an 86. 86, that's not as common. So when I get my UV filters and my ND filters, they'll have to be very specific to just this. Let me start with the G and work my way around so you can see the similarities of each lens. Yeah, it looks like the same kinds of buttons, same kinds of click, off, on. You get your little two buttons here. Zoom does not go out much at all. The main reason why I got the 28-70 is for portraits and headshot photography. I used to be a Canon shooter and then I switched to Sony last year. And when I switched, I kept some of my Canon glass, primarily my main portrait lens. This is the 85 1.4, and I just got this Sigma adapter, EF to E mount, and then I've been using this. And whenever I'm doing headshots or portrait photography, or I want some bokeh, I bust out the 85. This has so far never failed me on my Canon, and even when I went to the Canon mirrorless, I had the R5 and the R7. This always was my go-to. And then when I switched over to Sony, this combination for those same headshots and portraits was great. But this is a heavy combo. And I was traveling a lot for these jobs, or I do travel for these photography jobs. So if I turn this on, 2.60 pounds, 2.60 pounds. Remember that, 2.22 pounds. And I feel the difference. The circumference is bigger on the 28-70, but just in the hand, you could feel there is a lot going on in this 85, which makes it great, but there's a lot going on. This is also image stabilized. One of the very few 85 image stabilized lenses, I believe, that are out there, but this is an image stabilized lens at 1.4. This has no image stabilization, but it has this basically 4 primes in one, right? You have the 28, 35, 50, and 70, whereas this is just the 85. And other part of my job when I'm doing these headshots and portraits is that these are conferences. So I'll shoot headshots and portraits on the 85. And then there's parts of this conference or the jobs that I'm at where I need to switch it up and use wider focal lengths. Then I need a lens that looks really good when I stop it down when I'm taking a large group shot. So when I'm taking large groups, I'm talking 50, hundreds of people, you need to really close that f-stop in order to get all that depth of field. So this has that option, goes to f20. I don't think I should go to f22, but I can go that much. And then I can also get as wide as 28. It's not as wide as a 24. Sometimes you need that 24 if you're in a small area to get all those people in. But 28 is usually good. And 28, from what I noticed, even though the 24 is that wide angle focal length that doesn't really distort anything, I do notice a little bit of distortion in the 24 that's not in 28 and or 35. 35 is a more natural wide angle, and sometimes for those types of shots that I'm doing, artistically, I love the look of a 24 when it's close up and when it's used in artistic ways. But when you're doing corporate shots, you don't want to have any kind of distortion and any kind of stylized look. You want it to be crisp out of a catalog. You don't want to have distractions with the style of the photography. You just want your subjects to be clear and in focus and not distorted. The 28 is as wide as I would go for that. So for my job, this has so many uses for me. I can swap focal lengths instantly. If I wanted to do f2 to get the shallow depth of field, I have that, but then I could easily just go to my other f-stops to get different depths of field that I need. And as you just saw, it's lighter weight than the Canon with the Sigma here. It doesn't have image stabilization, but I'm using the Sony with in-body image stabilization, and I don't know if it does work, the image stabilization with the Sigma, but it's not the best. It's not as smooth as if you used all Canon. If I put it in that perspective that it's going to replace primes and way less that I can travel with, then it made sense for me to invest in this, even though I already have a 24-70. It makes more sense to invest in this strictly as a photography lens to replace all of my primes and lenses that need adapters. I don't need that anymore. I just bring these two, and it pretty much covers all of the portrait work that I'm going to be having in the future.